Righty, well, I can see we have all the members. I can see that you've all had a really good day so far anyway. So I'll call the meeting to order. And item next to call the meeting to order is public comment on non-agenda items. Alex or anyone, do we know if we have any public comment on non-agenda items?
No such comment.
Okay, thank you. Don't see a whole host of other folk joining the meeting. Review of minutes. So I think we had those with us. And is there any corrections or additions?
I just had a question. The minutes were from October, and according to those minutes, the previous meeting was in March. That seems so few meetings. Is that typical?
No, usually I think this group tries to meet on a quarterly basis, but with the pandemic, it's just been a little bit, and I thought the facilities committee met in.
Let me look.
Too. I'm just thinking about the facilities master plan. I thought
the big meeting we had.
Yeah, but I thought there was another one before that. Maybe not.
Well, it's okay. It's yeah. I just thought, wow, that's
it usually should be more quarterly, but I think things got a little weird because of the pandemic. We didn't have as many committee meetings.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have any notes of the
different
one. So my philosophy on meetings is it's nice to set out quarterly as a goal, but you don't meet just to meet. If you don't need to meet, let it go. And if there might be times when we get into bigger and better things, you need us more often, then we got to step up. So I think quarter is a nice target, but I don't want anyone feeling obligated, because I realize every meeting we call, somebody's doing work to get it all together and stuff. And somebody's spending time in the meeting instead of doing the real work we hired them to do. So anyway, so don't have a meeting on our behalf, but quarterly is a nice target. But that's a good comment, Tammy. Good catch. So with that all being understood, are we ready to get a motion to approve the minutes?
Can I make a motion when I wasn't at the?
Well, boy, that's a good one.
Yeah, and
I see that I'm going to move second and pass it single-handedly.
Yeah, I wasn't there either, John.
Yeah, how do we do that under Robert's rules, huh?
We might just go with, well,
you were the consistent one, so
yeah.
So I will move second and pass to the authority that I'm allowed under Robert's rules to say the minutes look fine.
Yeah, with the notice that both Trustee Silver and Trustee Osterling abstained because they were not on the committee last year.
Yeah, good point.
That's all you need.
Okay, and now the reason that we're doing this meeting is the technology master plan. So I will turn it over to Erica, who I have a feeling might turn it over to somebody else, but that's her call.
Thank you, Trustee Martin. And indeed, I'm going to turn it over to Vice President Candace Jones.
Thank you. Hi, trustees. I'm so excited to kind of catch you up. The last time we met in this group actually might have been to review the early draft of this plan. And so tonight is really an opportunity for us to kind of catch you up on all the work and all the additions that were made to the plan based on feedback that we've received from various constituent groups. So I'll walk you through that. I have screen sharing ability, yay.
Before we go into this, Candace, and just a quick point of order, John, did you already ask if there was a public comment?
Yes.
I did.
Okay, sorry, I missed that. Carry on. Pardon me for interrupting.
Oh, it's okay. Thank you, Trustee Osterling. All right. I'm hopeful you can see my screen.
Yep.
And the technology master plan. Awesome. Okay, so We really have 3 areas. I have 3 areas to update you on. I'll give you a quick overview on the process. 3 areas really guided this work. So we have the guiding principles. I want to talk about that really briefly, our data-driven planning, and then what came out of our technical standards. The full plan, which is 50, 60 pages, was sent to you all in advance. And so I promise not to read that to y'all. I just want to pull out some nuggets that I think are really important and very unique about this plan as we move forward. Of course, the purpose of our technology master plan is to provide a framework for the implementation of our training, hardware, software, services, and processes, which really support the district's mission, the educational master plan, and any one of our strategic goals, as well as accreditation standards. Here's what the process will look like. You know, we organized a team, did a lot of data dive in terms of surveys, external data scans with census data, surveys, town halls, focus groups, and then went through the shared governance process, collecting feedback and making adjustments on the way. And I think the real point that I'd like to focus on is what are the real points that drove the creation and really the enhancement of the plan. And so for this, there's a real focus on inclusion. And by that, I mean, you know, the technology master plan, just like the educational master plan, just like the facilities master plan, it is a community document. It is a document that all members need to be able to engage and understand. So while you know, my core IT background certainly can come out at times and I can talk technical talk, this is really our ability to express the district's technology vision for all members of our community. So all members need to be able to read it and understand it and engage in it so that they understand how to engage the implementation process or ask for technology or align it to the EMP standards. So that sort of underpins the storytelling moment that you will notice through the technology master plan. We have this strong commitment to digital equity. And it is defined as really this condition where all individuals and communities have the information technology capacity, which capacity could be in training as well as physical equipment, so that they can fully participate in society, democracy, and economy. And digital equity is necessary, which is really, really, really connected to the mission of this college for civic and cultural participation, employment, longtime learners, and access to essential services. So this commitment to digital equity really underpins all of the strategies and objectives that get framed, as well as the way that we speak about technology here on campus. And then really, I think what's interesting about this plan and what's really different about this plan is it's tightly integrated with the EMP. And so there's an intentional shift from really sort of coming up with lists of things to buy. You know, that's necessary, but we have processes for that. It's really emphasizing and placing the student and student success at the center of our strategies and objectives, because we need to then realize PCC's educational master plan. And so these 3 core principles really guide the work and the production of the TMP. This integrated planning approach, so as we were evaluating and working on the TMP, we had 2 priorities. We needed to make sure that the TMP aligned with the educational master plan institutional priorities. So there are 4 of those. And then we needed to verify that any strategy that came up actually had a direct correlation to the achievement of an EMP objective. And this is kind of just a real quick way to look at that. You know, you see our 4 institutional priorities: exceptional academic program delivery, equity-minded learning community, college engagement and environment, and customized student support. These are the EMP goals that actually have technical implications. And so we wanted to make sure we pulled those out and then are very, very proactive in then matching strategies to those EMP goals, which ultimately roll up to an institutional priority for the EMP. So again, this sort of models that guiding principle, that everything, that the technology master plan isn't intended to sit on its own island out there, allowing for us to, think and innovate in ways that's outside of this larger vision of the campus. All right, so then we moved into this really focused data-driven planning exercise. And the two kind of components that sort of enhanced about these pieces is we really wanted to make sure that we understood the communities that we're serving and the cities around. So we pulled out the service areas and really looked at the unemployment data in 2020, as well as the census data in 2018 that really expressed poverty rates in our service cities. And what you'll notice then, if you take these three really bullet points, so 3 out of the 10 service cities have a higher poverty rate than the California state average. And it's important for us to understand that, because then we're going to draw students from those communities. And that in all of our service areas, the post-pandemic unemployment rate was 3 to 5 times higher than the pre-pandemic rates. And so why that's important as we're thinking about crafting these strategies is when our students are needing to make decisions about where they spend their funding, these sorts of considerations that, am I going to buy groceries or am I going to pay for broadband service, right? These things really matter, and it's really important that we understand that. So the difference here, you'll see sort of Pasadena, right? We have our poverty rates, right? So here's the state average showing, so we're a little bit above the poverty rates. And then if you're looking at the unemployment rates as compared to the state average at that time was 4%. So Pasadena was a bit higher than that. And then you have this then pre-pandemic unemployment rates that just sort of skyrockets and shoots up. So it's really important that we're aware of those things. And then lastly, if you're looking at the household computer and broadband internet access, it has a direct correlation with our service cities that have the highest poverty rates. So the highest poverty rates are going to have a direct correlation to the areas that then are going to lack access to household computers or broadband internet, which means then that we have to then plan strategies to provide those students for services for our students. Next, we wanted to make sure that we were benchmarking our students in terms of higher education as a whole. And so we were really thoughtful about how we crafted our surveys. And so we used a service. EDUCAUSE is the leading nonprofit that governs technology professionals in both higher education and public sector. And so we use the exact same questions that EDUCAUSE uses, that they send out surveys to institutions across the country, undergraduate institutions. And so 71 US institutions participated in this survey. So what then comes out is it's important for us to see, is there anything unique about our population that we need to be aware of or think of different strategies? And by and large, there are a lot of correlations to what we're seeing with other 4-year and 2-year institutions. If you're thinking about nudging, so we asked our students, when the college is interacting with you or nudging, which might be a text message, it might be an email, 52% of our students did not receive, or they weren't aware of an early alert or a nudge. So what this tells us is maybe we have some work to do in those areas. It's not for us to sort of be oh my gosh, we could do more. It's just sort of to make awareness so that if we need to do other strategies in terms of communicating with our students, maybe what we're currently doing is not working as effectively as we want it to do. So us being able to benchmark against other institutions is really, really important. So here's that's where that looks. 92% of PCC students share that Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi is the single most important technology need, okay? You'll see that here in terms of, students also saying that Wi-Fi across this country is the most important technology. 70% of our students connect at least 2 devices to our networks per day, which is consistent to what we're seeing with students across the country. And why that's important is these bits of information for us allow us to then plot a technical strategy for Wi-Fi usage in all public areas across campus. So if you're at the mirror pools, or whether you're in a parking lot, or whether you're in the stadium, maybe we need to create some technical strategies and some infrastructure to really support that, because students are telling us that that's really, really important. And then they, of course, sort of shared what their learning preferences were. Now, this is we did this survey in November of 2020. And so being in the midst of the pandemic certainly would affect this, but 47% of our students say, hey, I want all or mostly face-to-face. 24%, about half, maybe I want a hybrid model where I'm doing both. 20 or mostly would want mostly or completely online, with 9% no preference. They just didn't have a preference. So I think that's interesting, because what we want to do is continue to benchmark against this as we're moving. We have a student survey that's going out in the next week or so that Institutional Effectiveness is doing for us. And so what I'm going to do is then take that data and compare how it resonates with our November data, because it could have changed. And then one really important piece in terms of digital equity and access is around 26 of our disabled students who reported on the survey that they were in this population reported that, hey, PCC has some areas of growth. And that's okay. I think we would all want to make sure that we're doing everything that we need to do to support all of our students. And again, that's pretty consistent to what we're seeing across the country. All right, so then where did we spend a bit of work, which is on the technical strategies piece? So if you spend some time on the technology master plan, I'm going to ask you to spend a little time on the appendices, because there is good data there. And it's intentionally pulled out in a way so that the story of the technology master plan can tell the story. But all of this rich information about our technical infrastructure and our standards is really listed here. So in the appendices, you'll see we take this moment to capture the implications from the educational master plan and the TMP priorities. So we take a moment to kind of explore that. We have a summary of all of our technology survey data. So each group's core data sets are there. The results of where we pulled the external and internal data scans. We did actually a really important accreditation moment, which is we had to review the prior TMP. So we had to say, so how did we do last time? And so that's all covered so that when we go again, when we have our future visit, we have evidence to show that we're consistently upgrading and monitoring our technology master plan. Our assessment of our current IT conditions. So here's where we look at all of the things that we currently have in place. And then of course, our courts planning team. So then if you peeked at our Appendix E, what I want to sort of really highlight here is we've made a change in the way that we describe and where we describe our standards or where we place some of the operational activities. And the reason why we did that is because This stuff changes every day. So the technology standards related to what types of equipment we use and for what purpose, or the smart classroom AV standards actually moves and changes probably every 2 months that we're updating that. And so we wanted to make sure that we were linking these from the plans and we are consistently maintaining them. So we're not locking ourselves into a standard that becomes out of date or is insecure. In addition to that, we have spent an incredible amount of time in these last 2 years really working on our policies and our procedures, because it's important that we, meaning ITS, are very much accountable for all of the latest technology practices out there. And so we wanted to really highlight that these new APs have been passed, I'd say, in the last probably 2 years, like 9 months to 2 years ago, and that they're consistently updated based on any changes in the standards. And so what that looks like, I'm going to stop sharing this really quickly and then share my other screen, because I'm magic. I have multiple screens. Let's see. All right, here we go. Okay, now let me share back. All right. I'm going to try a screen and you're going to tell me whether you see it or not.
Yeah.
Yes, you see.
Yep.
Okay.
Appendix E.
Awesome. So now where we're managing all of our refresh standards are on these documents that are linked within the plan. So at any time they can be updated. So it's very clear for members within our community, what's the refresh cycle for our computers? You know, how are computers funded? Are they ITS funded, meaning we already have budgeted, it's budgeted in the tentative budget and the adopted budget every year, or is it department or grant funded, or is it instructional equipment budget? So we try to help the community understand where funding comes from. We also talk a lot about what sort of the different types of peripherals or computers that they get. We have clear guidelines about obsolete and how to get rid of old equipment. It's very important for the district for us to maintain this refresh cycle for accreditation purposes. And so we want people to understand that hanging on to old equipment actually isn't a good thing. Can you, my same thing says sharing is paused. You guys can see the refresh schedule? Yes?
Well,
No.
what we see is Appendix E. We see
Appendix
the
E.
PowerPoint.
Okay, you still see
screen.
the PowerPoint. Okay,
Yeah.
1 second, let me reshare. Oh, there it is. Okay, got it. I'm glad I saw that. It's paused. Now do you see it?
Yes.
Yay! Okay, so we have one of these documents for every category, whether it be our smart classrooms, whether it be our computer standards, we have data cabling standards, but we're wanting to make sure that always our community understands what these guidelines are, and these are actually linked on our website. Peripherals, you know, what they get, what things are departmental funded versus core ITS funded, and what our current models are. So we have low-end computing devices that, you know, most folks use. We have some high-performance devices that some specialized areas need. A great example is our institutional effectiveness area. They need a high-performing machine because they are crunching lots of data. And then we always map to the accreditation standard so that everyone understands that there is this one-to-one relationship to that. That's that. And then we also then went through some exercise of making sure that we are able to also describe. So we have a standard for 6 areas: computer standards, data cabling standards, AV standards, printing standards, and each of those standards are listed like a document on that TMP. We also wanted to make sure that people understood that, hey, when we're talking about our core data systems, which for us at Pasadena City College, it's Ellucian Banner, it's our ERP system, which most of our community actually refer to as Lancer Point. So what we want people to know is, hey, this ERP system, which has student module, a financials module, and an HR module, this is the system of record, which is important for us to declare that. And why that's important is because this data actually feeds the chancellor's office. And this data is actually used for federal and state reporting purposes, apportionment, and research. And so we need to understand, people need to understand that it's very important then for this information that's included in Lancer Point to be highly accurate and up to date. So then there's a lot of integrations that we send out of our banner system. And these are just examples. This isn't an exhaustive portfolio of all the applications that we have, but this is common information that is sent from Lancer Point into a variety of different systems through common technology integration protocols. So again, we messaged that this is the system of record is Banner, common data areas that we send out a Banner, and then what systems we send that to. An example could be we send student data to the curriculum management system because we actually publish an online catalog that might need information about a faculty assignment or who's teaching what courses. Or we have what we call a CRM system, which allows us to take data from high school and outreach programs and then store that in our CRM system. And there's some backtracking to Ellucian Banner as well. We have a financial system, and so a lot of this information actually feeds our bid management reporting, human resources, payroll, LACO, et cetera. So it's just important that people understand that data is going to be free flowing between our core system of record into a variety of different applications that we host here at PCC. All right, last slide, and then I'll open for questions. Let me stop sharing and get the PowerPoint back up. All right, here we go. The last piece is we have really spent a lot of work. This is actually kind of exciting because there's a new module and a protocol for us to help our community understand the total cost of ownership. So if you go out and buy 100, maybe we receive a grant, and in that grant, there's a thought to buy 100 computers. Well, there are considerations to be made. The total cost of ownership for the 100 computers isn't just the equipment. It's also how we are making sure that we are able to dispose of the equipment. It's also, do we have staffing to support the amount of equipment that came on, and staffing to support the imaging and security aspects around that. So this is actually going to be built into our annual process where when folks go into the budget, annual planning retreat, they can express when they have a technology request. We're going to look at, hey, are there any potential additional costs to this purchase? It's not just the upfront. So if you're purchasing software, that's wonderful. What is the business need? But do you only have one-time funding for year one, or do we have funding to cover all years of the contract period? It's not just what is the buy-in moment, it's actually what is the total cost of the full purchase. Trustee Osterling.
Yeah, a quick question, Candace, if you know, in a broad, high-level way, what's our total cost of ownership? And by that I mean, how much do we spend on information technology on an annual basis? Just a rough number.
I'd say, you want me to include staffing or just like the software hardware?
Well, I think we need to include staffing because just as you're describing on this slide, it's more than just the hardware and the software. It is the human support. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we're probably in the general fund and some of our capital projects, I'd say we're right around 5-6 million. And then capital refresh is about maybe another 1.5, 2 million every year.
Okay.
Because we're planning, and so we're hoping to actually include some of that bit in when we get into the tentative budget and the adopted budget presentations, kind of helping, you know, everyone understand, here's what we're projecting for the next level at a high level, right? So here's what, you know, hey, our multi-software users, this is about, we spend maybe $1.8-2 million every year on software, every year. And that's actually software that's not covered under like lottery funds, because we also spend an incredible amount of lottery funds to help some of those purchases. So that's what I would say roundabout, that's where we're at. And we refresh about 1/3 of the equipment every year. So like, for example, last board meeting, I believe there was an item to go to bid for the refresh of 28 classrooms. So we're consistently working through that model. So then how that relates to total cost of ownership is sort of like making sure that whenever we add something to the portfolio, that either we are decommissioning something from the portfolio, which is very possible, right? So we could be adding a software package to replace another software package. And in some cases, those might be a one-to-one relationship, like we can repurpose this funding to use others. Sometimes it might be that we actually need to have a conversation through our annual budget process. If there is an augmentation that's required and considered for TCO, then we want each of the department areas to express that and to think about this during that process.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, last thing. We won an award for this plan. So it'll be presented to us at the board meeting next week officially. The president of the Chief Information Systems Officer Association, which governs sort of the California Community College system, and all IT professionals have awarded this plan its annual planning award. And the reason why that's really important is it's the IT community who's saying, wow, this is really, really, really great work. We have taken some new strategies in the way that we express the program, and to have, you know, when you receive an award from your peers, it makes it even sweeter. And so this will be presented next week at the board meeting. So we're really, really excited about that.
Yeah, it's a huge honor, and kudos to Candace and her staff and everybody, because it's a big deal.
I think, and then this is the thank you to the team. So we partnered with Integrated Academic Solutions and Gensler to help us with this project. Of course, we work through our shared governance process. And so my co-chair of the district technology team is Professor Jeff Winter in the business division. So he really helped us with all of the faculty focus groups. And then our core planning team that put all of this information together for us. So I just wanted to quick shout out to them, because it's important that we recognize all of the work that they did to bring this plan to fruition. And then even better, we went through the shared governance process, like flew through it. And the one thing I'm so proud of is we didn't get one edit from our academic senate, not one word. And I love my faculty colleagues because they're really engaged and they really have a lot of feedback. Not one edit. They were so overwhelmingly pleased with the plan, as were the other constituent groups. But so it went through that process. We are coming to you to sort of share the outputs of that, and then to allow y'all to ask any questions or any feedback before we come to the board. This will come to, with your approval, to the board next week.
Okay, so questions or comments from the members? Jim?
Thank you. So Candace, I think what's on a lot of people's minds right now about information technology systems with the hackers that hacked into the oil technology. So, you know, computer systems aren't just accounting systems anymore, but they're core central to the operations of the institution as they are here. And what have you seen in terms of hacker attacks on universities, community colleges? How prepared are we? I know there's no such thing as 100% security, but how much time and energy do we spend worrying about those kinds of things? You know, what's your sense of where we're at with security of our technology systems?
And Candace, would you like to tell Trustee Osterling what one of my first questions to you was when I came as president of this college?
Yes, Dr. Jonas was very clear with me up front to say, are we patching? Are all of the systems secured in the way? Because I cannot go through another ransomware attack.
Yeah.
And I said, Dr. Andrew Jonas, I've got you. Here's the way I would respond to that. So we have spent an incredible amount of time on our policy work. So we have network security, remote security, processes that were described in that. And I mean, I can pull those up, but all of the procedures related to those security efforts are documented in our board procedures. So network, we also have an incident response policy. We don't actually publish that one online. And the reason why we don't publish that, we don't want the bad actors to know what we would do if we anticipated or knew. So all of our environments are scanned every day. They send us notification. Everything is locked down via firewall. And so we take that as our core day-to-day, most sacred obligation is to protect the institution's digital assets. I used to work for the University of California. I just got a notice of a breach from the University of California for their Acceleron system. And so I understand what that means to lose public confidence if you come back and you're sort of saying, hey, by the way, you could have been exposed. And so we've taken a lot of measures to make sure that we have two-factor authentication on all of our, so as our remote workforce is at home, they actually have to log in, their little phone buzzes to make sure that they can log in, and they have to accept it before we will let them into our system, our Lancer Point system. And so, and that's done all through VPN and things like that. So I think it's a great question. I think we're well positioned, and we actually have been asked to participate in some webinars on security from the Chancellor's office for some of the work that we're doing.
I appreciate you asking that question, Jim, because when I observed how the technology was divided and you got hardware and software and personnel, there really wasn't a category for security, because obviously security involves hardware, software, personnel, all of the above, so I understand.
Yeah.
So
and
that
the
was
other
a good
thing,
question.
Trustee Martin, so it is described, so we follow the NIST standards. And so we keep readily up to date on any latest practices, and that's described in Chapter 7. One additional piece to that is we're also very careful about listing out any of the vendors that we use to secure, because again, those are then roadmaps for bad actors to know, like, so if there is, a breach for a particular system, and then the bad actors know that we have that, they have a roadmap on how to then exploit that effort. So largely what we see on the security front is large phishing attacks, emails that get sent that say, oh, the college wants you to change your password. Click here. And then they click there and they put their credentials in, and they're like, gotcha. And then they take those credentials and try to do other things. And so we've spent an incredible amount of time perpetrating some campaigns. So we actually did a phishing campaign to our faculty and staff, and anyone who I don't want to say failed, that anyone who
Anyone that
accidentally
got lured in.
yes.
Yeah.
We pulled them in and embraced them.
Teachable moment.
Sit with us for some classes, and they were wonderful, right? I mean, none of us want to make the wrong decision. And so
Right.
that's sort of how we approach it. It's not a moment to say, oh my goodness, you did this bad thing. No, how can we teach you how to spot those things? How can we
I'm
make
gonna
sure that
keep
you're
this moving, Candace, because we got a couple other items
Yes.
here too. So Jim, other questions, or Tammy, questions, comments?
Yeah, I'm just
Tammy, go
wondering,
ahead.
how are we disposing? I mean, that's a lot of technology that we're disposing. How are we doing that?
So Trustee Silver, you'll notice always a disposal item on the board report. So anytime we dispose of equipment, you will get a list of equipment. So we'll board report all of the equipment that gets disposed, when it was purchased and how.
That
And
was
then-
my pet peeve. I appreciate getting the in-service date for the equipment that's going out. Thank you.
Yes.
But can it be donated, recycled, or?
Technology equipment is kind of tough to do that. There are a lot of sort of environmental issues on how to dispose of that equipment. So we use a company to come help and pick up the equipment. But we could, we would never dispose of anything that's under warranty. So this is really old, out of warranty equipment.
Other questions and comments?
Oh, just
Go ahead.
a tiny, like, super practical, non-lofty comment. The PDF you sent us was formatted in book form, so it was hard for me to read with the spread, even though that other page then appeared under. So just, it could not be in book form.
Okay, Jim, do you have any other questions or comments?
No.
So I just have a few rambling thoughts, and so the first rambling thought that I had was, this was one of the most stunning booklets I've ever encountered. The graphics, the pictures, the layout, the artwork, whoever designed this and put that all together. I mean, it's like I keep it under my pillow at night, and if I ever wake up, I just look at it to just say, wow, this is beautiful. Put it on my wall in a frame, except I have to have an open frame so I can turn the pages. I mean, it's just stunning. It's just stunning. So that's amazing. I could see the way that, as you described, this is just like the tightest tapestry to EMP and every other thing that accreditation ever wants. They want every plan connected and integrated, and you can't even see the threads on this as it goes through everything else. I think you did a phenomenal job from the mission through to all of that. I was initially coming to you with one, I don't want to say criticism, because it really wasn't a criticism, but you kind of explained it in the presentation. And in the old master plan, technology master plan, I can remember we had this cycle where it went from, faculties to students, from labs to faculty to students, and it was doing this, but it was very prescribed. And what I didn't see in here was any prescription, of which you kind of answered my question that I didn't understand, that Appendix E has so much prescription in it that, you know, I could drown in it. So you really did have, it's a 5-year cycle max. Here's what's happening. It's just all in E, and you got to click on it because it changes, which even makes more brilliant sense than all of that. So, you know, because I read as much of it as I could comprehend and get, and I asked myself, how would I, other than it's just beautiful and stunning and well written and hits all the buttons and connects and everything perfect. If I'm coming down to spend $1, am I spending it on software, hardware, or a person? And I wouldn't know. But I guess that's more in that Appendix E procedures that get laid out. So I just think it's an exceptional plan. I have one, and if it's all booked and sealed and done, this is so insignificant, but I am one that likes to highlight that there are many PCCs. So when I see the beautiful map on 14, page 14, which is just gorgeous with populations, you know, I wish PCC Muir or PCC Northwest and maybe the CDC were also PCC dots on the map.
Done and done.
You know what I'm saying? I wish, I really wish there was a dot for PCC Rosemead, but I would understand now today why you would leave that dot off. So, because when you look at the map and you look at the populations and you look at the graph and you see how many students we're serving from these really remote locations that in some cases have pretty small populations, and, you know, realizing that, you know, 90% of El Monte's not in our district and 50% of Rosemead's not in our district, it tells a tremendous story in the picture. So other than it yanking my heart that there's no dot to put down there anymore, we might as well at least acknowledge the other dots that we have. So that would be my one
suggestion.
my one little thought there. But again, just everything about it is just, it's a work of art in and of itself. And I'm very impressed. And now that I understand Appendix E, and man, I'm not going to go there because that's like way too much, but it's just amazing. So really well done. Okay, anybody else? Did that stimulate anybody else to say? Oh, and now one super juvenile question. Is Banner in the cloud?
It is.
Okay. I mean, I just was curious. I assumed it was in the cloud. I assumed we're paying somebody else to host it somewhere else where they get to worry about the cybersecurity on that.
Yes.
But just had to ask because I didn't know. So anyway. Okay, let's go to air quality HVAC preparation for fall.
Oh, wait a minute. You need a motion.
Yeah.
To
We do?
to the board.
Oh, you want a recommendation?
I
You want to? You don't think the
that,
certificate on the back of the plan is sufficient?
yeah,
I wish.
Okay.
I would move that we recommend the technology master plan for approval by the full board at our next board meeting.
Second.
Okay. Any comment on the motion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Trustee Osterling,
Aye.
Trustee Silver,
Aye.
Trustee Martin is aye. Okay, there you go.
Awesome.
Okay, so now we can talk air quality and HVAC preparation
All
for
right.
fall.
Larry.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
So currently, we're working on two items. One is the HEPA air purifiers, and the second is upgrade of existing conditions and systems. Right now, we have the timetable for our modifications. We went out to bid last board meeting. This will put out to a competitive bid. That work will encompass college-wide duct cleaning. In addition to, we'll be looking at certain buildings which do not have MERV 13 equivalent filters. We'll be looking at modifying those buildings with their filter racks and also their motor speeds in order to accommodate the MERV 13 filters. Excuse me.
Mr. Larray?
Yes, sir.
Can I start off with a question right out of the chute? What is filter rack modifications?
Well, what happens in the air handler, we have a filter rack that holds the current filter system. As we go, if it's a MERV 8 or MERV 11, and all these numbers are based on the amount of microns that the filter media will pick up and hold.
Yeah.
So as we go, the higher the number, the higher the filtration. Hospital grade is when they're not using HEPA, which is 99%, they're using somewhere around MERV 14 and above. Currently, CDC is recommending MERV 13 and above for capturing viruses, bacteria, sneeze particles, everything that would be associated with this pandemic. So I'll get there, Jim. When I talk about the filter rack modification, what happens since we put more static pressure in the system by putting a more restrictive filter, we have to increase the amount of filter media or surface area. So where we might have had a flat filter rack, we will now build the racks out so we'll take 2 filters instead of a flat filter that was this way that only might have had 1, so that we're increasing the air flow and the air surface area so that we don't starve the system or overwork it.
Yeah. And then a follow-up question, if you were to assign a MERV number to a HEPA filter, do you know about what MERV number equivalent that would be?
I think if I remember correctly, it stops about MERV 16, so it's above MERV 16.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Were there any other, did anybody ever have, does anybody else have any burning questions about filtration or filter numbers?
Actually, I did, but you answered them.
Oh, okay, great. So
Yeah, my concern was what's it going to do to the equipment, because it's designed for one amount of resistance, and obviously you're increasing the resistance to pull it
Yeah.
in.
and
I call it
that's why-
resistance. It's not resistance. It's something, whatever. But
so
anyway,
yeah,
but you answered it. So
yeah, as we go out for this, the maintenance and upgrades of the systems, like I said, the duct cleaning is a maintenance issue. That will actually come in and they'll actually vacuum the inside of all of our ductways, pick up any dust or debris or anything that's in those airways, our crews have been kind of cleaning the registers now during our downtime, but they generally clean the air registers. And so that's a maintenance part of it. This upgrading or modification would be changing motor size or motor speeds and building those racks to give us the freer flow as we put the more restrictive filters in. Okay.
and then I assume, because the intake, obviously larger intake, all sounds good, but if it's going through the same pipe, you've obviously done your engineering to know that the ductwork is sufficient, right? So
Correct. We're not, and that all works also as part of the duct cleaning. Is they also come in and do an air balance. So as HVAC systems are designed, there is a certain amount of square footage that it services, and it gets a certain amount of CFM, cubic feet per minute, into each one of those rooms. So over time, things change, right? We get obstructions within the system. We get duct leakage. Someone might come in and say it's too hot or too cold, and staff may go out and adjust a volume damper to accommodate a certain person. So when we do the duct cleaning, we also come in and air balance the system, given the designs that it was supposed to meet when it was originally put in service.
and when you get all that just right so that everybody's happy, we're going to ship you to Israel and let you work on this Israeli Hamas thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I get this. Yeah. Okay.
So, So yes, it's really a two-part thing that we've been talking about. So the second part is the HEPA air purifiers. So we did do the resolution for the Aeromax Pro. These are for district-wide again. This is you might be familiar with the company Fellows. They make a lot of office supply equipment, shredders, and packaging. Well, they branched out into the air purifying system. We picked this filter for a number of reasons. I'm calling it a smart filter air purifier. It will actually pick up two sensors. One, it picks up on movement and will drive itself up or down depending on occupancy. And the second is it also is scanning, and it will pick up the amount of particulates that are in the air, and it will ramp up or ramp down accordingly. So each one of these units, we've picked them and sized them for each area to maintain that 3 air changes on the square footage per the space. And that was again within recommendation with CDC.
So I would suggest that, number one, the other thing you're probably looking for is availability, that you can actually get them, I assume.
So far, we don't have a problem with receiving them. We're working with purchasing right now, and we're going to have a staggered order because we want to be able to also deploy, and I didn't want to be storing them in the boiler house or our warehouse. So we don't seem to have at this moment. We got in at a good time with Fellows, and it's sounding like on the smaller units that would go in offices and smaller spaces, we're looking at about a 2 to 4 week lead time. And those were like the smaller little guys.
It's great, because I just have to believe with all that CARES money that we're using to buy this stuff, everybody else is doing the same thing, and we're right into the same usual supply shortages that everybody else is facing. So that's wonderful. And then my second comment is just a note that as we get these more sophisticated and wonderful pieces of equipment, they do require, similar to our computers, maybe not quite so severely, a human touch periodically. Somebody's got to maintain them. Somebody's got to fix them. They don't work forever. No good deed goes unpunished, right, Jim?
So Richard, here are we talking about these smaller in-room, many times portable kind of things that people would put in rooms in their house here, or is this part of your major air handling system?
So to answer the question, there are about 4 different sizes, and they're all sized for square footage. So in a small office area, you're going to get something that you'll see kind of it's a stack, right? It's a rectangular stack. That would be for small offices up to 200 square feet. The classroom units do between 600 square feet and 1,200 square feet, and these are larger units. Those units, we're ordering them. They will be hard mounted into the classroom, so they're up out of the way, and that's kind of what we're looking at. So it's a variety. We picked them per the space and the square footage requirement.
So just to follow up on that, so you're putting units in doing filtration in individual classrooms and offices. And in addition, we also have your major HVAC system that is conditioning the air, heating it or cooling it. And on those, you're upgrading to MERV 13, I think I heard you say?
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay.
We're going to be in pretty good shape on indoor air quality, a lot better than we are now. If you will, I don't know if everybody has enough time, but if you will humor me for 1 second, excuse me, a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Erica, maybe you know about the noise. I'm sure they investigated how noisy these machines are.
You're on mute, Erica.
You know, Tammy, I know a lot of details. That is just not one of them.
This,
I have one in my office and it's very quiet.
Yeah, the
this
ones
is
I've seen are
about
quiet.
for 1,300 square feet.
Yeah.
Erica has the half size one, which is about 600.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that is
quiet. You can't
picture.
even hear it.
Yeah, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So a 1,300 square foot classroom is about how many students if we were at full occupancy, roughly?
Well, depending on how many doors I have for exit. If it's a single exit door, you're going to be at 49.
Gotcha. Okay, that gives me a sense of size of. That was like the size of a class that I taught in. Okay.
Small
Next
house.
question, and I don't want to jump the gun. Maybe are you also looking at other things, including UVC generation and positive or negative ion generation?
We are looking at it, but as far as we've looked at so far on the ultraviolet, we've incorporated a couple pieces of cleaning equipment that actually go at the slower speed and are actually incorporating UVC on it. And we've also bought test equipment to kind of monitor how much bacteria or, organisms are on the surface. So we're kind of monitoring it. As we looked out there and we were reading the articles, nobody's really identifying the magic bullet, so to speak. And so we were really concerned that with the UV, there has to be a certain amount of contact time, so to speak. It can't just pass through. So we were really concerned about, well, where do you put it in the airstream? It would have to be pretty much bathing the filters is what we're thinking. But we haven't, as we put that bid out and we start getting some quotes back, we'll take a look at those different options.
Okay.
The other thing is,
Interestingly, I just put in an HV system at my house, replaced the one I had, and worked through the UV question. And our contractor honestly said, I'd be happy to sell it to you because I'm going to make this much extra money, but I would probably be doing you a disservice because unless you're a hospital or something and, an operating room, as soon as somebody opens the door, he pretty much talked us out of it. And, my wife and I are pretty kind of germophobic. So that was a good job. He talked us out of it. So anyway, but, I realize this is industrial in a school. This isn't a home, but he also talked us down from MERV 16 to MERV 13, MERV 14, I think maybe.
Yeah, MERV 13 is a tight enough filter to filter out viruses and bacteria and smog, and hopefully we don't have it again, but forest fires. And the higher level of filtration you go to, it's just you're working your system that much harder. So the idea is MERV 13 and then using some of these other things to augment that rather than just getting tighter and tighter filters that make your systems motors run harder. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but from my limited experience, I'm comfortable that we don't have UV filters. It's okay.
Yeah, I was going to put it back to your point, Trustee Martin, it's more things to break down too.
That was
Now,
another point you made to us, yeah.
I have a whole different other point of it is, I have to train our technicians and they've got to, we have to go through a series of things so I don't have an industrial accident, that they leave the light on and open it. And, it added another layer. And to your point is, I am concerned about our indoor air quality, but again, we're not in a surgical theater. So I think for what we're doing, with the MERV 13 and these HEPA air purifiers, you're probably in the top percentile of air quality that's out there as far as offices and school environments. You're going to be top notch.
Okay. So the strategy is the upgrading the the central air handling systems, the HVAC systems, the MERV 13 level of filtration, and having a larger field of filtration to handle the more restrictive flow of that, combined with HEPA filters in every classroom and every office. Gotcha. Okay.
That is the path that we have chosen, and I think that at the end of the day, I mean, we're going to see a lot less allergies. And then I know on staff side, we do from time to time get complaints regarding, possible mold spores and all sorts of other things. Yeah, I think you're going to take a lot of air quality issues out of the conversation with all this equipment.
Tammy?
As we build the Seraphian building, how many of these components can be part of the HVAC as we construct it?
Well,
Oh,
so
there we are. Okay.
basically with the Seraphian replacement building, anything that we would want to do to upgrade from what the replacement plans are approved at would be on the district's prerogative. So if we did not, the HEPA air purifiers are something that were, kind of tied with CARES and came in now because of the pandemic. And that's something that we can put in that building. But currently it would just be what the system is currently designed at.
And this is all the CARES Act money that's funding this, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So, eventually you're going to have priorities on how to use that money, but it might be an opportunity, as Trustee Silver is pointing out, to do something really good for Seraphian that lasts for a long time on some one-time CARES Act money. But you have to just weigh that against your other priorities, right?
Yes, and then like as Candace points out, Seraphian won't be online for 2 years. I don't know what product will be out there for 2 years from now that might be better or have a better surface life or something. I mean, I think that's something that we will take into consideration, but should plan, long term as we get closer to the occupancy of Seraphian.
Okay, any other questions about HVAC before we officially transition to anything else on Seraphian? Okay, what else do we have on Seraphian?
Okay, with the Seraphian building, we are currently in the demolition contract. We're in the abatement phase, which is pulling out all the asbestos containing material, fireproofing, floor tiles, any insulating material. So that is what we're in right now. All 4 floors are in abatement. The forum has been abated, and we are pending the physical demolition is pending the city right-of-way permit. So we're still at that point. We have worked through some issues that we've had with the city regarding our trees. And we have provided them with the information this week that we feel is necessary to that they'll be able to move forward with the right-of-way permit. So that's where we're at on the.
Trustee Osterling had his hand up. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jim.
So, how imminent is the haul route permit, the ROW permit?
I would say, based on what we've got, next week we're going to be starting to get into a critical phase. So for complete transparency, the contractor got themselves in a little bit of a trouble with AQMD. They disturbed something without having a containment in place. So they were shut down for 2 weeks as they had to come up with their plan and be reviewed by AQMD. There was no release. We've been doing the air monitoring. There was no danger to the external environment. this was within their construction zone, but they weren't following the rules and requirements of AQMD. So they basically are going to be coming off of that. Their plan should be approved by the end of this week. So we're going to be getting to a point next week where we could start to physically finish the asbestos abatement. And once that's done, then we're going to be starting to, they actually wanted to start demolishing the forum so that they could start getting haul off bins closer to the main Serafian building. And so that's kind of what we're kind of in that thing. So I would say 1 week we did receive from Andy Wilson's office, we did receive a approved public right-of-way maintenance and hauling plan, which is different from the, I guess is a different document than from our actual right-of-way permit to haul on the plan. That maintenance plan is indicating that we need to give or the contractor needs to give a 1 week notice, which is going out this week. So they would be notifying the neighbors in the surrounding area on the haul route that, you know, starting anywhere as soon as May 19th, they would be possibly hauling debris out.
So in an odd way, the delay that the contractor had with the AQMD issues sort of helped us because we weren't ready to provide him with a haul route permit just yet.
Sometimes things just work out that way. You're absolutely right.
Okay, got it.
So currently the district is not creating a delay.
Yeah, great. So we're not in that potential delay caused by the district situation. And if we get that haul route permit, by what date will we be okay?
I'm assuming if we get it anytime before the 19th, we're okay, because they can't even really haul according to Andy Wilson's office. They can't even send anything out until they've given 1 week notification to the neighbors. And I don't know if they got that out today. I was asking Chris, they were going to reach back out to his office and find out, you know, was a door flyer, was a mail, you know, what was the proper way or acceptable way to notify those neighbors.
Okay.
Okay, anything else then?
Just real quickly on the replacement contract, we have pre-qualified contractors. We're currently in the protest period for those contractors that did not pre-qualify. And so that wraps up. We have 2 contractors currently that are protesting their inability to be pre-qualified. So as soon as that's wrapped up, we will then go out to advertise and bid for the construction portion.
Okay, I think we're moving on to meeting schedule. When do you need us again? Do you know? Oh, I don't see her.
Yeah, Dr. Jonas had to log off ahead of the budget meeting at 6. So I think it's up to y'all to decide when you would next like to meet.
And aren't we 3 on the budget committee too?
Yeah, we are. I think so. So I'm not going to worry about our next meeting because we're going to meet. Candace, Richard, just tell her, you know, we'll meet when you need us to meet. And if we don't, it's all good.
Yeah.
So, okay, any future agenda items? Okay, so we'll probably see you in about 15 minutes, huh? On
Yeah.
a different Zoom. Okay, thank you. Great job, Candace. Great job, Richard. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye, Alex.